Hi everyone! So I'm trying something new today. My kids just recently started school again, and during the summer, my husband's a teacher, so when I wanted to do a video, he would take all 4 kids and they would go to a park or a children's museum or something while I did a video for an hour or 2 hours. But now that he's back to school work and all my 2 oldest kids are back to school, I'm trying to do this during nap time for my youngest. So that means my toddler is up. So we might get some PJ masks or some playing noises, maybe some mommies thrown in here and there from my toddler, but we'll see how this goes and we'll do the best we can. So today we are making spaghetti squash, and it's so yummy because it is Texan inspired, and I love anything that has like peppers and black beans and a little bit of spice to it, if you hadn't already noticed. So it's gonna be good. First thing you're going to want to do is preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and I just did that. And then prep your squash. You can use one large spaghetti squash, but I can only find 2 small ones, so that's what I'm using. Get the stickers off of there, wash them, and then we will cut them in half. So we need to cut these lengthwise, and squash is actually really kind of hard to get through. So oftentimes I slam mine. I don't know if this is the right way to do it, but this is how I do it, so. If there's an easier way to do it, oh, please let me know, because these things are beasts. Get to this point here and I just, yeah, there we go, see? But the cover just keeps coming open. Okay, thank goodness that part is over. Now you're going to use a spoon to pull out your seeds. Alright, so pull out as much of this stringy stuff as you can. But spaghetti squash, if you keep digging at it, it's going to keep peeling like that because that's what it's meant to do. So just get it mostly clean and that's good to go as long as you've got no seeds in there. So now, with those scraped out, just take a baking sheet and spray it with some oil. And put these face down, or inside down. And we will stick them into our 400 degree oven for 45 minutes to an hour, just until they're soft and they'll pull apart with a fork. So I forgot to mention before, I'm sure you saw my bread sitting here. Zucchini bread, it just finished cooling, so I'm going to cut into it here in a little bit. I'm not going to show you how to make it because it's pretty easy, but if you want the recipe, please go to moreveggiesmom.com, sign up for my emails, and it sends you a confirmation email, and I can't send you anything unless you respond to that. So do that. I'll send you my brownie recipe, and then I also send monthly emails that usually include a recipe. So my next one is going to be the zucchini bread. So if you want it, definitely sign up. So while our squash is in the oven, we're going to go ahead and start chopping some vegetables. I have a pepper here. Usually I use green, but all the green peppers at the store this last time I went were kind of sad looking. So I got a yellow one instead. So just a bell pepper, and we're going to dice this up with a small dice, which is 1/4 of an inch. Now if you're ever worried, like, do these need to be the same size? Am I making it small enough or big enough? it's not that big of a deal. I just like to have them smaller because my kids eat things better when they're smaller. Also, you want them a uniform size so they cook evenly. Plus, you want to think about the other things that you're putting in with it. So we're doing black beans and corn, so I'm going to make them roughly that same size. Then we're going to go ahead and do a small dice on 4 Roma tomatoes as well. If you're wondering why I always use Roma tomatoes, it's because they're cheaper. You don't have to use Romas if you don't want to. I just like to save where I can. So any tomato would work just fine. Now we're going to do some cilantro. I know that a lot of people don't like it. I've heard that it tastes soapy to some of you. How sad, because I love cilantro. So if you don't want to put it in, that's fine. I guess, you know, it's better than making it taste soapy, right? But we're going to do a fourth cup of this chopped. And the way you kind of check if you have enough is by putting it in your hand and smashing it. And I can tell here I have maybe 1.5 tablespoons, so I need a lot more. Okay, so yeah, I've got like a full fistful here. I think we're good there. So I can go ahead and chop this up now. Just keep your hand flat on the top of the blade, so you keep your fingers out of the way and just rough chop, rocking it back and forth. Don't you love this? How big my cutting board is? Chef Mike, if you're watching this, don't judge me. You know how much I hate dishes. But I got my cutting board from my sister who owns Black Forest Custom Carpentry, so go check her out. Well, no, don't check her out. Check out her and her husband's business. It's a good one. They make some really beautiful stuff, and it's custom, so you can pretty much pick anything you want them to make, and they'll do it for you. We are done with that, so we're going to just open up a can of black beans and get that rinsed off. In addition to my black beans that are draining here on top of their can, I rinsed them and then I set them on there to drip, which is not the best idea because you could knock them over, but you know, me and dishes. Then I have a 4-ounce can of diced green chilies, 1.5 cups of frozen corn that I have left out to thaw. I also have some cheese here. I'm going to use about 1.5 cups. Then I've got 2 little containers here. This one has a 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of cumin, and 1 teaspoon of chili powder. I'm going to use this to season my chicken. And then this one I have a half cup, not a cup, that would be horrible, half of a teaspoon of turmeric, a tablespoon of cumin, a tablespoon of chili powder, and half of a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to use that to season everything once we stir it all together. When my squash was finished, I pulled it out. It is definitely soft enough. It's going to just peel right apart, and I'll show you how to do that with a fork. And then once I pulled it out, I started to chop up my chicken. So I've diced this into about, well, they're about a 1/2 inch thick cubes. You can use any kind of chicken, breast, thighs. I use tenders, and it just is 3/4 of a pound to a pound, so 12 to 16 ounces. And I have preheated my stove here. I have a large pan with 1 tablespoon of oil in there that I am going to cook my chicken in. And it's preheated to a medium-high heat. I'll just get this in here. Make sure you wash your board and your knife and your whole space that you use to cut. Not that I'm a germaphobe or anything, it's just a really good practice. This is going to take about 7 to 10 minutes to cook through, stirring occasionally on this medium heat. Okay, so my chicken is done. I'm going to turn off the heat because now we're going to get our squash, and mine is still kind of hot even though I took it out a little while ago, so I'm going to use this because I can't just sit and hold it for very long. So this is really quite simple. So you just take this fork and it'll scrape right off. See? And that's why they call it spaghetti squash. So we're just going to scrape that right into our pan here. I'm actually going to set it down on the pan, or on the baking sheet that I had before, and I'll hold it there, and that'll be easier for me to scrape it, and then I'll just dump it into the pan. I also got a new clean spoon, one that hasn't touched the raw chicken. We're going to put everything into this. So our corn, our black beans, come out of there. I want all of you. There we go. Our veggies and cilantro. Woo, I'm spilling the juice from my tomatoes here. Our can of chilies. One cup of cheese. Oh, maybe a little bit more. And the spices that we got earlier. My drawer came open. Why does that keep happening? So I've got all this stirred together now. If you don't have a large enough pan to do this, you can do it in a pot. That's not a problem. You could also transfer it over into a large bowl and stir it in there. But we're just going to transfer it into a large baking dish. Some people I know like to put their spaghetti squash back into the shell of the spaghetti squash, and that makes it look pretty and rustic, I guess. But there's so much stuff loaded into this, I have not successfully been able to get it all into a shell. So I just use the casserole dish, and I lay it out kind of even here. And then, what happened to my cheese? Got it. We're just going to do another like half a cup over the top here. If you want, you can also top it with some more cilantro. And then I hope you left your oven preheated because it's just going to go right in. However, since it's the middle of the day and I'm doing this while my kids are at school, I'm just going to cover this and stick it in the fridge. I'll pull it out a half hour before I want to bake it and just let it sit on the counter and kind of come up to room temperature. Then I'll stick it in the oven and let it finish. So here is my Southwestern spaghetti squash casserole. That is a lot of S's. If, like me, you are putting this in the fridge and cooking it later, you will need to preheat your oven to 375 degrees and bake it until it is heated through, and you'll know because the edges will be bubbly. If you are putting it directly into the oven after you have mixed it all together and put it in your casserole dish, then you just need to have it on broil so that the cheese will melt, and that only takes about 5 minutes. Again, thank you all so much for watching. Please leave me a review, sign up for my emails on moreveggiesmom.com, like me on Facebook, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Have a great day.